This is a big topic. Media, trust, and political information. How we digest it, how we use it, and how misinformation and mistrust is destroying the very fabric of information in the political realm. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about how to consume political and media information better. Welcome to Better, the podcast about doing better, being better, and leaving the world a better place than we found it. Hello. Okay. More intimate lighting in the studio today. A little darker. What do you think? Not too sure. I figured I'd try it out, particularly for this topic because it's a big topic. It can be very tough for people to be objective when we're talking about, better political discussion and media consumption. What I really, this is a really hard one to do because it can really be very upsetting for people. There's a lot of negativity in politics and in the media and trust and all that right now. And this podcast is meant to be about positive things. And the positive piece of this is that I tried my best to not look at left and right. I just tried my best to look at a couple current stories and then to say, okay, how can we show examples of what I am talking about? And I also tried to make sure that it was as even so that you guys don't feel like I'm picking on anyone's side, even though with one of the examples, I used Trudeau for Canada and Trump for the US. Even with one of these examples, it's very clearly showing that Trump was lying on something or is lying as of today about something. But it's not meant to bash Trump. It's just meant this is the most glaring example I could find for this episode because I really wanted to be able to articulate an easy example. However, this applies to both sides. If everybody applied this method of having better political discussions and media consumption, both sides would be able to have better conversations, and better conversations mean better communication. Better communication means better progress, and better progress means better world. So that's how better ties into this, even though some of this content will be negative. I actually have notes for this show, like a few pages of notes, just to make sure I don't miss anything. I don't misrepresent anything, because sometimes with most podcasts, I will just go off the top of the head and I'll forget something, or I'll say something, I don't say it quite the way I want to. So you'll see me actually looking down a lot more in this episode than I usually do. But that's really just because I want to make sure that this is as good as it can be. I've already recorded this episode and I'm now re-recording it because I didn't feel like I nailed it the first time. So where does this come from? I was in politics for a lot of years, front of politics, back rooms of politics, at all levels: civic, provincial, state, government, federal, advocacy work. I spent a lot of time in politics from a pretty young age. And I have gotten a reputation amongst, amongst the people that know who I am. I've gotten a reputation for having a pretty fair and balanced look at politics. I've worked on the right. I've worked on the left. I've voted right. I've voted left. Okay. So I'm not somebody that somebody that's going to say, you should vote for this person. I'm trying to give you the information to make the decisions that align with your values, so that you can vote for who the right person is for you. So a friend was asking me questions, and really just was, even though him and I have had conversations before about, how you can better find information online, he was still a little puzzled. So I figured I'd put it into video, and then next time he asks me, I could just send him this video. I do hum and haw about subjects like this because I don't want this podcast to become about politics. And there's been a few now that have been. I think for the most part, I think this will probably close that chapter out for a while. But at least I hope. So I just thought this was really important. And ultimately, I decided to cover this because if we can get healthier, if we can get political conversations to a healthier place, then really we can save a lot of relationships, make relationships better. There are a lot of families, friendships, relationships with your intimate partners. They're breaking up over political arguments, and that's not the way it was supposed to be. And since my background is in politics and my job in whatever different versions that I've had of my job, they all required a very deep understanding of how to do proper research online. So I have steps for you guys to essentially make it so that when a political conversation comes up, you can arm yourself with the right information so that you have something more to say than just fumbling through whatever randomly comes to your mind. Also, to make the conversations more productive. So that said, we are going to talk about Justin Trudeau and his net worth, Donald Trump and his ties to Project 2025, and my own experience in politics. So let's remove the confusion and get down to the truth and have better political discussions. Here are the steps. All right. Step 1, stop everything you're doing. That's the first step. Just stop. If you're watching this or listening to this and you're like, this is an interesting topic, I'm not sure that I do know all the steps, stop what you're doing. Don't post anything. Don't listen to anything. Don't watch anything. Get through this podcast first and then resume, hopefully with a much better understanding of how to how to find good political information. So step 2, I'm going to read right from my paper, okay? Remove ego and bias from the picture. Make a list of what positions mean the most to you so that you can stay on track. If it means that much, you won't care who's getting the job done just as long as it is. So here is a step that a lot of people have a problem with. Second step, after stop. So technically, once you stop, this is really the first step in the process. A lot of people have a problem removing their ego from politics because they pick a guy or a side and they stick to it. My granddaddy voted conservative. My daddy voted conservative, so I'm voting conservative. Or bleeding heart liberals for generations. And I'll never understand how people can draw the line based on party or politician, because the truth of the matter is both sides have good ideas. Now, depending on the 4-year span, who it is that's running and all that. Now, maybe the left will have better ideas than the right, and the right will have better ideas than the left. That really just depends on a lot of various factors. And that's why I say don't get hung up on supporting a person or a party. Figure out what matters to you. So I'm going to tell you what matters to me. I am pro responsible gun ownership. I believe that every gun by 2030 should have a thumbprint ID on it, that you have to register with the gun shop you buy your gun from, or that you take your gun to get your old guns converted. And that thumbprint can only be the person that purchased the gun. And then that you can purchase additional thumbprints, but it goes through the whole checks and balances process of making sure that they should have access to a gun. Immediately, that would resolve all of America's school shootings for the most part, because not all of them, but a lot of them are kids getting their parents' guns. It would stop a lot of people it would stop a lot of accidental shootings. It would stop a lot of passion shootings. It would help a lot. So I'm for responsible gun ownership. I am pro-choice. I am pro-public health measures. I am pro-fiscal responsibility, which used to put me on the right. In Canada, it probably still puts me on the right a bit, but in the US, it definitely puts to the left. My left, not your left. So I am pro small government. In fact, I think the concept of a prime minister and a president running tens and hundreds of millions of people, running the policy and trying to govern that many people is pure insanity. I don't understand it. I don't know why it's still a thing. I am pro updating of constitutional documents, in that we look at what's outdated and we update for the technology and the progress and the scientific evidence around us, not just saying, well, we're just going to update it and make it so that, we can run a monarchy, but convert Canada or the US to a monarchy, although we're kind of under a monarchy still, kind of, in Canada. Basically to be able to say, okay, look, the right to bear arms, which I just talked about, in the US, it's a little ambiguous. So let's update it. Let's keep the right to bear arms under circumstances of whatever everybody can agree on. So I really think that and there's much more. I'm not going to spend all my time. We're already 11 minutes into this podcast, almost 12. I'm not going to give you my entire system of values and beliefs, but I will say that that's the first step. You have to separate out. So if you're a Trump supporter, if you're a Harris supporter, if you're a Trudeau supporter, if you're I know I always say his name wrong, Poilievre supporter, set them aside for a minute. Set them aside and just look at what it is you believe in. Not them, you. Instinctually in your mind, when you think of abortion, what do you believe? Do you believe that abortions are wrong? Or do you believe abortions are wrong for you? That's a very important distinction. Okay. So set up your list of values. That's number 2. I'm going to go to number 3 now. Again, reading off of my paper like I never do, but I'm doing for this one. Learn how to identify credible sources. This is a biggie. Okay. So here's the questions you want to ask yourself when you go to a site you've never been to, or you're watching a video by someone you've never checked out before. Do they offer data that is linked to primary sources or to sources with statistical data? So if there's an article that says 8 out of 10 people are voting for X candidate, do they link to any kind of statistical analysis of that? Or is that just something they're saying? Do they back up their claims with verifiable or duplicatable evidence, or both? So that just means, is there evidence? And has anybody checked it out and verified it? The best example of, there's 2 really good examples. There was no evidence that JD Vance was humping coaches or whatever the hell. Can you believe that we have to say that? Whatever it is that people are accusing JD Vance of doing with a coach, there was no evidence of that. So nobody should have taken that seriously. Just as there was zero evidence that Hunter Biden's laptop was something that would get Joe Biden thrown in jail. There was just nothing there. And Rudy Giuliani got his hands on it. The GOP got their hands on it before anybody else, even the FBI. And they couldn't find anything. They said, we're going to tell you after the election, which, really? You have this smoking gun that can put your opponent in jail and you're not going to tell anybody? Like, that's not exactly, Trump isn't, and his people aren't exactly known for restraint. There was just nothing there. There's no actual evidence. So if you're going to be a person who is going to not let yourself become part of a cult, whether on the right or left, you have to go with evidence. If you're not willing to go with evidence, just stop this podcast and go watch something else, because everything I'm going to tell you about is evidence-based here. Okay. Do they resort to name calling or unprofessional editing? So if you see lots of spelling mistakes, grammatical errors, if they're calling, let's say they're calling Trump a loser. Now, I will say that, a lot of people have called Trudeau what is the word that people use for it's something feminist. It's they're calling him a name, basically saying that he's a feminist out of I don't know why I can't think of it right now, but saying that he's a feminist, a fake feminist, basically. Maybe that's what it is, false feminist, maybe something like that. That's not name calling. Calling Trump and JD Vance weird when they do weird things, that's not name calling. But to call Trump a loser in their article, whether it's media or just a a blogger or whatever, or they're on video and they're saying this guy is a punk or whatever, like stupid name calling, unnecessary name calling, suggesting that a candidate's mental health should be checked, like the right did with Joe Biden and the left does with Trump. That's not name calling. Unconstructive name calling, let's call it. So reading an article, and let's say the article starts out, Trump holds press conference. And then the next sentence is, punk ass little bitch Trump. Well, not credible. Not credible. Stop reading. And again, grammatical errors are a big sign that, first of all, they don't have the resources. I mean, you can have the occasional one, but there are a lot of sites out there that people will send me, especially on the Q side or the really strong alt-left side. And I'll look at them. I'm like, you can barely even read this shit. So yeah. Are they hyperbolic? Hyperbolous. So if you're reading an article and it says it states a fact, great. But if it says, like I saw today an article that Trump said, and then it was regurgitated by the media that had written the article that if Tim Walz got in as VP, the country would die. Not die. I don't think die was the right word. It said it would the country would fall apart, or something like that. That's hyperbolous. They can't prove that. Nobody can prove that, and there is nothing to suggest that. Minnesota didn't fall apart under him. The military and for his part of the military, that didn't fall apart underneath him. There's nothing to suggest that when he comes into an important role that everything falls apart. So hyperbole means you should probably move on. Next up for credible is, if you're at a new site, go to Google and type in the site name. Is X site credible? Not X as an Elon Musk site, but just X site, whatever site you're looking at. What comes up? There are a lot of people that have careers that are primarily to arm you with the right information. And they're fact checkers. And they will look and they will see if a site is credible. They have a lot of different metrics for that. I'm not going to get into all the metrics today because that's just, again, I don't want this podcast to be like 4 hours. But there are people that this is literally their job, their whole life, to fact check things. And if you put, is X site credible? Is X site legit? Is X site a scam? Something like that into Google. You'll find out. You will find out. There will be people that will inform you of that. And if nothing comes up, then that's also something to worry about, because that means nobody has fact-checked that site. Did they have other articles about this topic? This is kind of a big one. You go to a blog about politics, and you see an article about JD Vance, let's say, or Tim Walz. And you look at the blog further and they have nothing else about them. I would take that as a less credible website and author, because if they don't have any other, if they haven't been exploring the topic for a while, then they don't know everything. The chances are there's information that they're missing. Let's see here. Can you find the information they're offering on any well-known websites? So basically, if JD Vance shot a basket full with Sorry. I was reading my notes. I was like, what the hell am I talking about? I put basically if JD Vance shot a basket full of kitchens with an AK-47 at a rally, best believe it would be on every major news site imaginable. What I meant to put, damn autocorrect, basically if JD Vance shot a basket full of kittens with an AK-47 at a rally, it would definitely be on CNN and Fox and yes, Fox would cover it. They would. You can't hide that, right? So if you're researching something that is pretty big and it's not on any of the major sites, check back maybe in 12 hours. But for the most part, that probably means the information is incredible. So that is how you can decide whether a site is credible or not. And there's other signs for sure. The design of the site, where the site comes up in search rankings, the authors on it. You can research the authors and you can of the articles, and you can see what their past writings have been like, their past content. Have they won any awards? Are they recognized by any organizations? Things like that, right? And that's how you can find out if they're credible, but you can also find out if they're bought and paid for. So that's the main ones. There are other ways to find out if a site's credible, but if you use that as your guiding, as your Northern Star, then you should be able to find the best information. You should be able to know when a site is credible or not. The next step I want you to take is make a list of media sources you will consume. This will help you not only for politics, but just in life in general. My list consists of Midas Touch, David Pakman, Brian Tyler Cohen, all on, left leaning. MSNBC, which is, I would put in the center, sometimes left leaning, sometimes right leaning. Fox and Breitbart. Allow me to interrupt myself for just a second so I can put 2 points out there. My Canadians, I am sorry that I left us out of that media source list of the media I trust. Basically, the deal is this. In Canadian politics, first of all, it's a lot easier to get to the source of the story. It's a lot easier to get the primary source. Second of all, our media does a much better job of separating opinion and reporting. Not always great, right? CBC leans a little left, CTV leans a little right, but for the most part, you can get a pretty balanced story out of Canadian media. And there isn't a lot of great Canadian political commentators online. There just aren't. There's some people who have good ideas and good and good topical conversations, but it's mixed up with a lot of other content. We don't really have a BTC or a Midas Touch or David Pakman. So on the Canadian side, I would say media I trust, pretty much all media to a point, and then I will go and I'll do my own research. And second of all, I want to say, and I want to make sure I get this right, I believe it's News Nation. Yes, News Nation. After I made this video, I discovered a YouTube channel called News Nation. Wow, how refreshing. Now, I don't agree with everything they say. They've got Bill Riley on there who, he used to be pretty in the middle, and now he is very far right. He speaks a lot out of his ass. Like today, I saw a segment where he said that Kamala Harris is not confident in her policy positions. He doesn't know that. He's not in her head. The only way he could possibly know that is if he was tapped into her head, if he had telepathy. And I'm pretty sure she said next week she's going to be revealing her policy positions. She's just in the middle of rallying her troops kind of thing. So I don't like that. But I do find that they do go left. They do go right. They do stories on both sides, and they present more fact. There's a lot of hyperbole out there, especially about Donald Trump. I find that a lot of media will say, could you even understand what he said? That sounded random. It sounded like he didn't. It sounds so convoluted. And while, yes, Trump has a lot of those moments, some of the time I sit there and I'm like, you couldn't understand what he just said? But News Nation, I find a lot less of that. And I find it refreshing because, David Pakman and BTC and Midas Touch, they're great, but they're on a mission right now. And their mission is to make sure Trump doesn't get into the White House. News Nation, they present both sides. They seem to be unbiased from what I can tell. Now, I'm sure the right will feel a certain way and the left will feel a certain way because you see one or two of their videos and then the algorithm feeds you up what you like. But if you go check out their YouTube channel and you just watch through their videos to get caught up, you will realize they're actually probably the most impartial news station on the web. So that's my add in here. I just want to make sure I added in because I thought they were important points. And now back to me. So, what I'm trying to do by having that list is I'm trying to see both sides of the conversation and then take whatever I find there, because the media is, look, if you don't trust the media, fine, but the media is always going to be, at least in the vast majority of cases, the media is going to be where you find out about stuff. Okay. So I look at those sites, I see both sides, and I continue on from there. You know, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people will just do Fox or just do CNN or just do, David Pakman or just do Breitbart. You can't do it that way. I will tell you, there have been many, many times when I have heard something on like a CNN or something, I flip over to Fox, I get their perspective, and somewhere in the middle, once I've executed on this whole list of things, I find the truth. So I want you to, I don't know how many of you guys know the story about when I got into politics in the front end. I spent a lot of time in the back end, and I managed to let somebody convince me to run for MLA in Manitoba. It was a big, nasty mistake. And I knew it was a mistake before I did it, but I did it anyways because I allowed myself to get talked into it. I ran nightclubs. I had a late night talk show that had a lot of crude humor. I mean, you've seen Conan, you've seen all these shows. They all had, in 2000. So the campaign was in 2016. The stuff they brought up was from, I think, 2012, 2011, 2010, 2008, stuff like that. There was a lot of crude jokes on late night TV at that point. And basically what the media did was they said, I was a misogynist. But if they had just, gone and looked at the context of my work, taken the time to figure out exactly what it is that to look at those accusations and see if they're true, the headline wouldn't have read that. The headline would have read, guy who produced crude late night talk show and books and wrote fictional books is running for office. And then people could decide whether they like the content. But the vast majority of what they said was fictional. Some of the stuff they got wrong, it was actually compliments they thought were insults. And then some of it was, me saying, like, there was a tweet I had about Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann. I said, this is the best that politics has to offer in terms of the people in power for females in politics. Then there's no wonder why there's not so many women in politics. And I was rightfully so in that tweet, because those two were horrible for women in politics. I'm not saying there shouldn't be women in politics. I believe there should be more women in politics than there are. And I believe that's because better temperament, better diplomacy, just better. But at the time, those two were like the women that were holding the torch for all women in politics. And it was a disaster. We can all agree in hindsight now, for sure. I mean, I saw it. I posted it while they were in office, or while they were not, maybe necessarily, but while they were part of the political game. And you look back now and you're like, yeah, total disasters, right? So I know where the media can go wrong. So that will, I just want to touch on that for a second, because I'm going to come to that throughout this. Okay, so the next is to never live in an echo chamber. So this kind of ties into the previous point. Never live in an echo chamber, consume content from both sides of a debate, and always stick to the side that offers the most evidence. Okay? If you read an article, you see a video, you consume any content which states something of substance about politics, make sure there's evidence, and make sure you follow that evidence and you read or check out that evidence. Okay, because there are a lot of people saying a lot of things that just aren't true, and they know there's so much noise they can get away with it. So let's take an example for this. So Project 2025, which is something that Donald Trump is involved with or not. We're going to look at this. So this is the website for Project 2025. Okay. So Project 2025, this is their website. And a friend of mine actually went through the website and they put together this graphic. So Trump's Project 2025, that's what they're calling it. Now, Trump is denying that he is a part of Project 2025. This is a left-leaning graphic, okay? Purge the government of thousands of civil servants and replace them with unqualified far-right MAGA loyalists. Send the Justice Department after Trump's political enemies. Pardon violent January 6th criminal insurrectionists. Pack the Supreme Court and lower courts with MAGA extremists. Enact a national abortion ban and restrict IVF access. Reverse the FDA's approval of abortion medication. Remove mentions of abortion and reproductive health from agency materials. Reverse President Biden's student debt forgiveness, and so on. Okay, there's a lot. There's, I think, 50 points on this graphic. Okay, so on the right, you have Trump that simply says, I do not have anything to do with this. I even know the people that wrote this. I think this is, I don't necessarily agree with everything they say. I wish them the best of luck, but it's not my platform. Okay, fair enough. However, here we have an image of Donald Trump shaking hands, okay, with the Heritage Foundation president, and the Heritage Foundation is the foundation that came up with Project 2025, okay? Then we have Trump claims not to know who's behind Project 2025, but a CNN review found that at least 140 people who worked for him are involved. Now, if you're going to say, well, this is CNN, it's bullshit. Go and Google this article, look for the names, and start typing them in. You'll see them. They're involved in Project 2025, and they were either involved with Trump or are involved in with Trump. And the last one here, Donald Trump. He said, I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who's behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them. Okay. But I just showed you, and you can further research this if you don't believe what I'm saying, which you shouldn't. You should go research it. Just showed you that that's a lie. It's a blatant lie. So if Donald Trump's lying about being involved with it, why? That's, and this is where you have to infer. You have to come up with your own ideology, right? So you have to say, why would he lie about this when it's very clear that he is involved? He knows people involved. He's clear. And if you look at his platform, it mirrors much of Project 2025, like 90% of it, okay? Maybe some of the more radical stuff he hasn't put on his platform because he wants to get elected. But you have to, I infer from that he wants to distance himself from it because it became unpopular. It's become a talking point for the left, and so it's unpopular, and he doesn't want to, Project 2025 has become a dirty term, even though he's constantly saying, I'm going to do these things. He doesn't want to be associated with the term because he knows it's negative out there for a lot of people. So, through my research, through the links, through looking at through dealing with everything that we're talking about here, we were able to see that the evidence says Donald Trump is involved with Project 2025, and he absolutely will enact Project 2025. So that's just basically, now I've looked at both sides, right? I have Trump's tweet, I have news sources and on Fox and everything that aired where he said he's not involved with Project 2025, and then I have everything else there that's from the left that's fact checking it. Okay. All right. So for the next tip, I'm going to let one of the best and fairest political commentators on the web, David Pakman, chime in. Okay. So he is left leaning, but I've seen him call out the left many times before. So he offers some great advice here, and I'm just going to bring David into the conversation.
Hey Jay, David Pakman in the studio. My number one thought when you say a better or healthier way to consume political content and sticking to evidence-based would be put the opinion aside for a second, and if you want to be informed, go to primary sources. And what I used to always say when I would teach critical thinking and media literacy in college was critically analyze primary sources. Start there. And obviously, in order to do that, we need enough media literacy to know Am I consuming opinion journalism right now, or am I consuming reporting? It's not that reporting's not sometimes biased, but we have a real problem in this country where sometimes people don't even know, is this opinion or is this news? So go to the primary sources and start there, and then build your opinion on top of that, understanding what it is that you are reading. Obviously, beyond that, scheduled breaks from consuming political content is a good thing. You know, when I'm done with my Friday show, I don't look at anything until Monday's show. And I miss stuff that happens on the weekends unless someone texts me, but it's all part of making it a healthier thing.
Okay, so Davis is a lot there, but I want to pinpoint on the primary sources thing. So a primary source is the entity or person that is at the root of the story. So if the story is about Trump's platform on his website and the platform page would be the primary source. If the story is, and we're going to look at this in a second, if the story is about Forbes, then you should be able to find it on the Forbes website. Okay, so here we go. Justin Trudeau. I'm going to pull up a graphic here, and I'll read it out to you guys who are just listening. So Justin Trudeau, this is a post that has become very popular. It's been debunked a million times. However, people still share it. So this post says, according to Forbes, net worth grown in the last 2 years from around 10 million to 385 million on a salary of just 371,600 per annum. This deserves some scrutiny, surely? ? And this Graham Kennedy guy who posted this particular one posts a screenshot of Justin Trudeau's profile on Forbes. Okay, so you can see it. It's there. I'm going to just go here and I'm going to get rid of it. Okay, so the claim is that Justin Trudeau has gone from 10 million to 385 million dollars in his net worth while being in office in 2 years. And then it's tied to, the vaccine companies, they gave him hundreds of millions of dollars to push the vaccine mandate and all that. Setting that aside, let's do it. Let's look at whether that's true. Forbes, so I'm typing Forbes in, Justin Trudeau. You see, there's people have been searching for this. Net worth 2024, 385. I'm going to put in net worth 385 million. Okay, so we have Forbes profile of Justin Trudeau. I've already looked at this, so I'm not gonna bore you guys to death. Oh, do I even have that on? I do not. Sorry, guys. I didn't even bring that into the screen. Okay, terrible. All right, so basically what I did is I went in and I typed Forbes Justin Trudeau net worth 385 million. The main points that people are making, and in the search I have Forbes that has Justin Trudeau. And this is his profile. I've already looked at this. It doesn't have anything about it. Then you've got some random site. You've got a random tweet from Theo Fleury. And then you've got a Reddit forum who says, according to Forbes, Justin Trudeau's net worth and all that. You got TikTok Quora, CA Knowledge, International Business Times, Reddit again. Okay, so what's wrong with all that? First is Forbes is a pretty big deal. They have a lot of money for SEO, and if they published a story about Justin Trudeau like that, it would be available on the web. It just would. It's not. So immediately you already know, not true. Now, some people will try to throw the argument off, say, well, why does he have so much money? Why, he was just a school teacher and then he became the prime minister. Why does he have so much money? Well, his dad, he inherited a lot of money. Doesn't have to worry about a thing. Nope. So, it's the guy has money. To say he has 385 million based on Forbes is a total lie. So the primary source was Forbes. We just went there. Forbes doesn't have it. In fact, here, I will bring it back into the conversation and I will click on the only Forbes link about Justin Trudeau. Okay, so this is the page that guy went to in screenshot. So this guy actually went to this page and screenshot. You can see profile. I don't know why the picture isn't showing up. Oh, it's just taking a while to load, I guess. But this is the page in mobile form that guy screenshot. So he went to this site. He went here. Oh, stupid ads. Oh, ads are the worst. So he went to this site and he got this screenshot and he didn't bother to look and see if it was real, or he did and he didn't like the narrative, so he posted about it and posted a lie about it, which is what I'm trying to help you guys avoid. Okay, so here's his information. Okay, a little bit of information here. Here is, he's number 57 on Powerful People in 2018. His age, his marital status, although they should maybe update that one day. I don't know if he's still married, technically under law, probably. Some did you know quotes, some stories, random stories, and that's it. That's all that's on that page. That's it. Literally, that's it. Total lie. You went to the primary source. You saw it is a lie. If it was available on their website, it would be in a Google search and it would be one of the first results that come up. Okay. So we have, you and I together right now, we just debunked that one. You never have to worry. So now when you go to a party, you can say, oh yeah, no, that's not true. That's not true. I went and I checked out Forbes and it's not there. That's just a meme. Don't believe memes, guys. Don't ever believe a meme. Okay. Memes are like a snippet of a video where somebody says something, but then if you expand out the video, and I had this argument with somebody the other day, expand out the video on the front end and the back end, they give context that makes you understand the quote completely differently. It's the same thing like a meme. A meme can say anything. And you should never, so if you see a meme and you're like, whoa, that's crazy. Is that true? Go research it, but don't just hit share on it. Okay. All right. So the next step, and this is something that David did talk about, is to separate opinion and information. Information and opinion. Opinion is when somebody gives you their version of the event. I've seen a lot of the news where somebody will say, well, I can only infer, or this suggests to me that, or what I'm seeing when they say this is, all that stuff's opinion. It can be entertaining for sure, but do not allow it into your knowledge base of the problem or the issue that you're currently looking at. Okay? Extract the information, leave the opinion as entertainment, and deal with just straight information. I think it's pretty straightforward. I need to spend a lot of time on that point. But a lot of people, like David said, right? He said there's a big problem where people don't understand the difference between opinion and information. Information is evidence. It's, according to an NPR poll, 185,000 people out of the 250,000 polled said this. And then a link to that poll. That's information. And then if it comes after and say, well, I don't know, I think NPR has a problem with this subject and I don't really believe in them as a media source, that's opinion. Okay, so you would take that poll, you would take that link, you would do your research, but you would leave the opinion aside. If they said something funny, you can laugh at it. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't allow it to enter your knowledge base, okay? Next up. Well, I'm going to read this one for sure. And this will play into why I told you my story earlier. Understand that the media is flawed and will get things wrong. They're also existing within a broken system that is completely dependent on clicks and getting info out there into the world as fast as possible, which means investigative journalism has taken a back seat to shock and awe. Okay? So here's the deal. When my political thing came up in 2016, I had, like I said, some tweets that if you viewed from a certain standpoint, you would think, oh, that's kind of misogynist. Although I think they used the wrong term even in that, because misogyny is a hatred of women and not things that I hated women. But the tweets were basically saying things like, the tweet I got a lot of trouble for was an excerpt from a story I wrote about an alcoholic who has a horrible dating history. He finds out that his girlfriend is actually a hooker, and he gets absolutely hammered. And he says, if a whore screams in the bedroom and no one's around to hear it, is she still a whore? Okay. if I said that about somebody who is not in the pay for sex industry, yeah, I could see that. But it's fiction. And so the media, the rival political party put this out to the media within a few hours. I was on the defensive. The story went out misogynist, okay? But if they had taken even half an hour to look at my social media and my blog, they would have seen that I am the furthest thing from misogynist. They would have seen that I have a track record of supporting women in roles in politics, in roles of power. They would see that I have a history of respecting women. They would see that my mom would have beat my ass if I ever disrespected a woman. And they would see that I have no domestic charges. I got no, there's no record of me in a speech or in a book or anything that's nonfiction where I am disrespecting women. My characters have, but I'm not my characters. So, the media got it wrong. And then I went and I said, yeah, these are things that were, taken out of context, da, 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 da. A few media sources did correct the story. People read my blog. They understood it because I wrote a big blog about it afterwards. You can go check it out on my website, projectsbyj.com. I think it's under old writing, old articles, something like that. It's called The Politics of Language. And I will tell you that I actually had a hell of a time after it. I moved just to let the smoke clear. Got back. Some people were still mad at me. I said, go check out the blog. I can't sit here and explain to you for hours. Go check out the blog. And they wrote back to me and they said, oh my God, I am sorry. And there are a couple of media sources as well that retracted or did, a correction and said, I got a chance to go on CBC radio and CBC TV live. And it was really funny. One of the reporters said to me, are you trying to drum up sales for your book? And I was like, Janet, like, come on. First of all, I don't even like the book anymore. This is years and years ago. It was horrible writing. It was a blog that got turned into a book. It's not good. I don't want to sell this thing. I've actually got it pulled from most of sales. But I just thought that was really hilarious that she thought that. And you know what? Honestly, I get it. You can ask the question, but at the end of the day, the evidence is there that I'm not a misogynist, and it's still there to this day. So you can go look. You can go look at both sides of it and go to the primary source, being my blog, being my social media, and tell me if you find one thing outside of a talk show, which was like really, they're crude but not horrible jokes, like not something that you would freak out about. And then look at the fact that they're the fiction has it. That's about it, right? And the talk show was largely fiction too. Like you're taking a situation and you're blowing it out of proportion, right? So you have to understand. So the whole point of this is, if somebody consumed the first story, and that's what they ran with, and they never looked at the story again, they would think certain things about me, right? But if they took the time to understand that a story is constantly developing, especially in the first couple weeks, they would have read the whole body of work and said, oh, so this is a nothing burger? Okay, good. Got it. All right. And then they can make a choice as whether they vote for me or not, right? But because we're so razor focused on instant gratification, we make this mistake. So like with Trump's assassination, the assassination attempt on Trump, a lot of people made a lot of assumptions right out of the gate based on very little information. And I sat there for several days. I'm still sitting here waiting for more information before I say anything about the assassination, except for the fact I'm disappointed with the left and the way they responded. And I'm disappointed with the right for making it sound like it was the left that did it, because there's no evidence for either. So you got to understand they're going to get things wrong because of the way that we've built the world. There's a very little investigative journalism happening anymore. And here's the thing. When you see a piece by Wall Street Journal, New York Times, credible media sources, and they have done investigative journalism, it comes with evidence, it comes with a ton of information, and it's good reporting. But there's not a lot of time for that in this world anymore. A lot of people don't have the patience for it. You need to let a story play out before you form any kind of opinion that affects your values and your voting based on that information. All right. Almost done here. This is one of the longer ones. Don't get so hung up. This is a big one. Don't get so hung up on a particular politician or party that you talk out of your ass whenever they're brought up. It's okay not to know everything, and it's okay to not agree with someone you agreed with before. That's fine. It's called growth. Politicians come and go. Don't make an ass out of yourself by speaking about anything without proper research. It's not worth it. You'll lose credibility and become isolated. Super easy. I talked about it at the beginning. I'm going to talk about it again, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in depth right now. I have absolutely a ton of experience in politics, ton of experience in research. So when something really basic, like this Justin Trudeau net worth thing comes up, this is a great example. The reason I brought this one up is I was at a party and this came up. And this guy had no history in politics, no education in politics, nothing. Never been in politics, never cared about politics, right? Now he cares about it because he hates Justin Trudeau and his stupid hair. He says, he's telling people, yeah, did you know Justin Trudeau took his net worth to $385 million and the vaccine companies gave him all this money and it's Forbes got it. It's recorded. It's on Forbes. So I'm standing there and I'm just like, generally when this stuff happens, I zip it. I don't talk. Right. So my one friend that was there, he's like, what do you think? You're the political guy in the room. What do you think? Do you know anything about this? I said, no, it's not a thing. And the guy was up. What are you talking about? I knew, I did my research. I figured it out. I said, did your research was your research basically just looking at a meme and then reposting it and thinking that it was true? He goes, no. I looked at everything from every angle. I said, okay, cool. Let's bet $1,000 right now in front of everybody. And this is a credible bet. I will even e-transfer the $1,000 to who is the host of the party. They can hold it. It's like a trust account. And you do the same. And after the money's transferred, you show me on Forbes where they said that Justin Trudeau went from $10 million to $385 million in 2 years while being prime minister. Just do it. You get it. Hey, you're this confident? There's $1,000 for you. Now, free $1,000. I can wear egg on my face, and I will say to you, the $1,000 will come with I'm sorry. I did not have access to that information. That's my bad. But here's your money. Guess what happened? No bet. He cussed me out, stood about this far from my face, and was screaming at me about how I'm a libtard and all these things. And I said, I don't even really like Justin Trudeau. I know him. I don't like him. We don't get along. I told him to go fuck himself at one point. Like, I'm not a Trudeau guy. I'm not a liberal guy. I'm a centrist, and I lean left or right depending on who's right about a topic. That's it. Oh, is he angry? He left the party, and I've never heard from him again, thankfully. But dude, if you're watching this, I'm just going to call you CP. CP, if you're watching this, no hard feelings. I get the confusion that comes from all this because they do this to confuse us. The whole system's designed to confuse us, to get clicks, to sell ad revenue and all that, okay? It's designed in such a way that the internet is the Wild West. I'm not saying the media designs things like that. I'm saying the internet as a whole is designed to be confusing because it's Wild West. Anybody can post anything. A political expert can go on the internet and give his thoughts on a topic. And then some random Billy Bob from Arkansas goes on there and says, that's bullshit. I know this because I've seen it with my own two eyes. Here's the truth. And then people are like, oh, well, Billy Bob, he made a good point. Billy Bob must be right. Don't hate experts just because they're experts, and don't believe people over experts that don't have any any education or experience with the topic. So don't get tied to anybody. Don't get tied to anything. Just go with the evidence, okay? And now the last one I'm going to give you, don't turn everything into politics. I mean, Jesus. Some people, their whole life is about politics now. They got nothing else going on. Everything's about it. It shouldn't be. Don't do that to yourself. Just like David Pakman said. I'm gonna play David one more time here, actually. Just one more time. So listen to what David had to say.
Hey Jay, David Pakman in the studio. My number one thought when you say a better or healthier way to consume political content and sticking to evidence-based would be put the opinion aside for a second, and if you want to be informed, go to primary sources. And what I used to always say when I would teach critical thinking and media literacy in college was critically analyze primary sources. Start there. And obviously, in order to do that, we need enough media literacy to know, am I consuming opinion journalism right now, or am I consuming reporting? It's not that reporting's not sometimes biased, but we have a real problem in this country where sometimes people don't even know, is this opinion or is this news? So go to the primary sources and start there, and then build your opinion on top of that, understanding what it is that you are reading. Obviously, beyond that, scheduled breaks from consuming political content is a good thing. You know, when I'm done with my Friday show, I don't look at anything until Monday's show. And I miss stuff that happens on the weekends unless someone texts me, but it's all part of making it a healthier thing.
Okay, so that last part is what I wanted to just reflect on. David Pakman makes a very good living on politics, being a political commentator, and he's very good at it. Did you hear what he said? He makes a living off of this and he takes the weekends off. You can too. Set aside time for life. And when you do that, you know, it's interesting. Shauna and I have had lots of conversations lately about politics. It's interesting. She's not a big politics person, but she's really into everything with Kamala and Tim and Trump and JD and all that. And so we talk about it a bit. But yesterday we watched a video. She's like, okay, enough politics. I was like, okay. And we just proceeded on. We didn't talk politics the rest of the night. That's what you got to do. You got to just let it go. You can't make politics your life, because I'm going to tell you something. The politicians are not thinking about you. Maybe in a grand scale they are, but you can't. Look, I understand what they do affects us huge, right? You look at the US, the abortion ban in states, that has largely affected people. You look at, trans athletes in sports, that has affected a lot of people. I get it. But at some point, you have to say to yourself, if I make it all about politics, I'm going to look back at my life 5 years from now and realize I hadn't lived a day of it. I just got sucked in. It's not a life. Okay? So set it aside. Now, I'm going to throw up this graphic for everybody so you can take a look. This is what we've discussed today. I'm going to run through it quick. This is a summary of everything that I've talked about today. So the graphic is, I captioned it, doing better, healthy political discussions and media consumption. Okay, so I got 11 steps here. 1, remove ego and understand your values. 2, identify credible sources, memes not included. Memes are never a credible source. Consume politics in small doses. That's part 3. 4, check out both sides. So if you got every single debate, there's a right, there's a wrong, and there is the middle, which is where the truth usually lies. So there's your side, my side, and in the middle, there's probably truth. 5, go with the best evidence. And if there is no evidence, don't go with it at all. Set it aside. Never think about it again until somebody presents some evidence. What happened to my voice there? That was weird. 6, always check out primary sources. That's from David. That's from me. Make sure that if you're looking at something, you go to the primary source to see if you can validate the information. Number 7, separate information and opinion. Okay? So, like I said, don't allow hyperbole to get in. Number 8, be patient with hard details, meaning give the story a chance to be fleshed out before you make your final opinion and you start telling people this is truth. If you want to, like let's say with Trump's assassination attempt, as the story was coming in, if you want to talk to people, I would say, well, this is based on the information I've seen so far. This is what we know. But don't go, this is what happened. This is the truth. It was totally rigged. Trump with the fist up. That proves that was his moment. That's going to be a photo goes down in history that proves it was fake. Don't do that because you don't have proof of that. There's no evidence to suggest that. Okay. Number 9, be willing to course correct. Be willing to say, I was wrong. Be willing to change your understanding of the situation as the information comes in. Number 10, don't die on any political hill, meaning stop with the party politics, stop supporting individual politicians, just deal with the policies. And number 11, don't make your whole existence about politics. Okay. So I know this is a long podcast. We're almost at an hour. And these ones I do by myself are usually, under half an hour. Sometimes they're like 17 minutes. But guys, this is really important. I have a background in politics and research, meaning that I am a credible person to be giving you this information. I have solved through, I'd say since 2020, through COVID and all the way to today, I have probably solved 2,000-3,000 arguments amongst friends, loved ones, random people on the internet. The fact of the matter is that if you see there's a podcast about mindset and the 4 different types of mindsets on the internet, go watch that one as well. This will put you into that evidence category. This will put you into what I consider to be the best of the 4 categories, because it allows you to have a not just an opinion, but an educated opinion. Okay. And then people can't accuse you of being polarizing or trying to pollute people's minds, gaslighting people, things like that. People will respect what you have to say about the topic of politics. Okay. So regardless of whether you like Trump, regardless of whether you like Kamala, regardless of whether you like Justin or Pierre, it doesn't matter to me right now. All that matters to me is that you guys take these steps and you apply them into your practical use or consumption of political knowledge in the media, so that you yourself can have a better life and make better decisions at the ballot box. Okay? So that's everything I got for you. Like, subscribe, share. I would really like you guys to see this, pumping this one out, if you could help me out here, because I think it's an important thing. I know 59 minutes, almost 60 minutes by the time I run the outro is a lot for some people to consume, but I really believe this is one of the more important ones I've done. Okay? So thank you very much for tuning in. See you on another episode.
Thanks for checking out Better. If you got to the end, it must mean you liked the episode, right? So how about 5 stars, maybe a sub, maybe a share, great universal comment points, and good luck on your better journey.